mind waiting,
Okay. All right. I see. So it just comes through your microphone.
Yeah, right now it is, but
Okay.
it'll change.
All right.
We're live now.
All right.
Definitely sounds like a Joey Sellers composition.
It is.
Uh, oh man, that is cool. My guest today is Paul Carman, Carman. Just saying. Um, and gosh, it's very exciting to have you on here, actually, finally, It's really
Thanks, Cathy.
nice
Yeah.
to have you on. Um, and so, by the way, Cecily is here. She says hello.
Awesome. Hi, Cecily.
And Toby Simmons, who's just a jazz fan and helper. She helps people do stuff. Dan Davila. Hi, Dan. So, Paul,
Yeah,
you live in Idylwild.
I do.
And I don't know if everybody knows about Idylwild. Why don't you tell us just in general
Well,
about Idylwild?
it's a little mountain town 2 hours east of Los Angeles in the mountains right above Palm Springs. About 5,000-6,000 people here. And it's a mile high up. We had snow last night.
Really?
Yeah. We have 4 seasons, which I love, and we have clean air and clean water, which are 2 of the reasons I originally moved here.
Oh,
So yeah, there's that, and it is a little bit of a tourist town, but there's no skiing. It's basically, there's no lake. It's just hiking, and a very hip little town. Lots of cool restaurants, a lot of good music, and So I moved here in 2001.
Uh-huh.
It was
Okay.
just after 9/11, and that's not the reason I moved here. But I was living in Laguna Beach and paying a lot for rent to be near the ocean for clean air. And some babies, well, I adopted a baby. We adopted a baby and couldn't get pregnant. Adopted a baby, boom, got pregnant. And all of a sudden, the plan for having one baby went out the window. And my wife at the time was going to have to cut back way back on work because the two kids are 1 year apart. So
Oh, wow.
I decided, we got to move out of Laguna Beach and pay some cheaper rent somewhere, and I was not going to move inland again. And found Idylwild, and went from spending $2,000 a month for a little cottage with a teaching studio in the back to $800 for a 5-bedroom house with a huge backyard.
Wow.
And I said to Luann at the time, let's just try it. If it doesn't work, we'll leave. And I commuted a lot. I was still doing my gigs in LA. I was teaching 2 days a week at Cal State Fullerton, teaching jazz history, and commuted almost continuously for about 2, maybe 3 years. And what I found out when I moved up here there's an amazing boarding arts high school, world-class boarding arts high school up here, Idylwild Arts Academy. I didn't know it when I moved here, and pretty soon they found out about me and made me their saxophone teacher, and things just kept growing since then. There's an amazing man named Marshall Hawkins, who's a great bass player, who started the jazz program there. So I partnered up with him, and they started expanding the program, and now it's been 17 years I've been teaching there, and
Wow.
we have 300 kids from 35 different countries from around the world.
Yeah.
Tiny classes.
Yeah.
My jazz theory classes are 6 kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
this is where I met Paul in Idylwild. I was
Yes.
teaching there for a
Yeah.
year for the jazz vocal.
Right.
Yeah, it's really nice. First of all, just going up the mountain is just great. It's that kind of peaceful quiet that you really can't get in the city. You have to go into nature parts, but it's so beautiful. And then the school at the town, you're right, the town is so nice. And I didn't realize there was only like 5 or 6 thousand people there. And people are nice, and the school is really a really nice school, and it has all these different, I always forget the word, different departments, different,
Yeah, it covers all the arts:
yeah, yeah,
music, dance, film,
yeah,
visual arts. Music department has jazz, songwriting, and classical.
yeah.
So
It's really good. I mean, wow, the teachers are really great, and the students are fantastic. It's really beautiful. It's growing a lot of good people.
yeah, we get good people. We had you on staff for a while. I know you decided you couldn't keep making the drive, but and then that's when Cecily came in.
Yep.
And Cecily was our jazz teacher for a while.
Yeah.
So anyway, I feel so blessed to have that
Yeah.
kind of as a bedrock now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long as the school stays open.
Right.
It's a private school, so
Now, and there's also Jazz in the Pines there, which has been a long going festival, right? Uh,
yes, although it's changed. Well, with it stopped during the COVID
yeah.
thing, and then now they're not going to bring it back like it was.
Uh-huh.
And instead it's been merged with our summer program. We have a great 2-week jazz camp,
Yeah.
and so it's been merged with that, but it's not a 3-day weekend festival like it was.
Is it a 1 day festival? you know?
They're still trying to get it off the ground. Really, this is the first summer that we're going to be wide open to be able to. But they're planning on just doing performances at the different venues around town.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
So
I like that.
we've got especially one venue called Faro that can hold quite a few people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a really nice venue.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, my friend Toby says hot air ballooning too, maybe.
Oh boy, I wouldn't do that around here. Do that in
I know that
Temecula.
doesn't
Yeah,
sound, yeah.
do that in Temecula.
There's a lot of trees there, Toby.
Yeah,
Lots of trees.
a lot of drafts.
Yeah. So, I remember when the first time I heard your music, and I don't know why I was surprised. I guess because I wasn't led to, like before. Like I'm thinking, if I go see somebody here and they're kind of abstract and avant-garde, I know about them ahead of time, about their music, you know. So I think that's why I just didn't really, I had no idea. And then,
Even
uh,
better, caught you off guard. Yeah.
yeah. And maybe because you were out of town. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I just remember hearing it was like, wow, that's incredible. And of course, the band, do you have one band only?
Right now I have two.
Yeah,
The one is 4 bits, which you just heard,
right. And
and
that's
that's
Kendall
Joey
K.
Sellers,
Yeah,
myself, Chris Seimer on bass, who lives up in Seattle, and
yeah.
Kendall K.
So no chordal instrument.
No,
Okay.
and original there was it came out of a trio. I had a trio called Tree Orbits
Oh,
that was Chris Seimer, Kendall K, and myself,
yeah.
and we made a recording even together. And then, but we started like having Joey sit in with us, and that it just meshed perfectly. Joey's like my other brother from somewhere, and a great composer too. So we brought in a lot of nice compositions as well. So anyway, that became 4 bits. And
Yeah.
then there's also a band that I call the Quartet.
Uh-huh.
I love band names, by the way. I love Cork et, and that one was Joe Bagg, Rob Thorson, bassist out of San Diego, and Chris Wabbage.
Oh, wow.
And that one
We have to
focused.
hear a little of that too.
We will. Yeah, I've got some of that.
Yeah.
Um, Although, yeah, the recording I have doesn't have Joe Bagg on it, though. It's Joshua White.
Oh, okay.
But and that band focused more on tunes, but still, had some free feeling to it.
Yeah.
So those are the two bands I've got going right now.
Yeah. What started your love affair with like out music?
Boy, trying to think, because it goes way back to when had just gotten out of high school. So it was in those first 2 or 3 years of college, I guess, that some people took me to their house and gave me something to smoke and said, "Hey, listen to this."
And you're like, wow.
And that was like Ornette and Mingus, and even the more out European people like Albert Mangelsdorf and so forth. And I just I fell in love with how much, when it's good, when it's done right and well, how much the listening level goes up
Oh, yeah.
to. And it's not easy music to succeed at either. There aren't these rules, the chords and the form and everything that lead you into a place where you can do all right, even if it wasn't the best version.
Right.
But if you don't have any guidelines as far as the improvisations go, it's much riskier and more chance for failure. But that's when it helps to have the right people you're playing with. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was right around those first few years of college. And I formed a trio. It was drums, guitar, and saxophone called Mother Tongue. Another great band name.
It is a good name.
And
And so, yeah, now I still want to hang out on this question a little bit because, I mean, I know when I was growing up, first I listened to my dad's music, and that was Ella Fitzgerald and Stan Kenton, people like that. And I was definitely drawn to it. I think the groove, the rhythm, the groove of it all, and I bet that was probably what struck me first. And and then when of course, you and I are probably around the same age, but coming through the pop music of that period, I mean that also rhythms were really strong, Motown stuff. And but then when I started getting into college, then the ECM started entering my universe.
yeah, there you go.
And I don't think my dad had much Miles. So I think in college I started listening to Miles, and then Weather Report came along and I was totally sold on that, Bob Moses. So but I'm just wondering, like, uh, I don't know. I'm curious, I guess, like what about it attracted you? Although you kind of said already.
Well, I have to credit my father for guiding me in this direction.
Oh,
Um, he was a huge fan of West Coast
oh,
jazz,
yeah.
and his favorite was Jerry Mulligan,
Uh-huh.
and but he, like Paul Desmond, all of that scene. I heard, I got to hear in the house very young,
Yeah, yeah.
and then when I hit seventh grade in beginning band, there was an offer. Okay, pick an instrument. You can join beginning band. By then I'd had piano and guitar lessons, so I'd already had music lessons. Um, my dad steered me toward the saxophone,
Yeah.
and it was a great beginning band program, and I got good very fast. And
Where was this?
this was in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
My dad was a businessman, and the company, what do you call it when you get kicked out, advanced you,
Oh,
promoted.
yeah.
It got huge promotion, and we moved to Cleveland
Okay.
from West LA
Oh,
in 1969. So a
okay.
huge shift.
Yeah.
Very, very different place to live. My mom hated it. She hated the snow. But anyway, so uh, but that, yeah, the beginning band was before we moved out there. But then when I, back back in those days in Midwestern schools, it was marching band.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
was
sure.
band.
Sure.
And when football season was over, then it just became concert band indoors,
Yeah.
and no jazz group. And strangely enough, there were two saxophone players at my school who loved uh, swing music, 1940s, 30s big band music.
Hmm.
And one of them even like all wore a zoot suit to school all the time, and like he was really living it. And they formed a big band from the best players from 4 or 5 different high schools. They called it the Big Band Renaissance.
Wow.
And for 3 years in high school, I was playing gigs on the weekends at country clubs, and we made a recording. And
Oh, wow.
I learned so many tunes then.
Yeah.
God, they all got in my head. I really wasn't improvising at all. Even then, I was playing second alto, but all those tunes got in my head. And as soon as I started improvising, it became a lot easier because I had that stuff embedded. But that was a
That
great experience.
that must have been exciting when you started improvising and all these songs like emerged.
Yeah, blue skies, yeah, and all of a sudden, yeah, I know blue skies, so
That's cool.
So that's, yeah, my earliest music was West Coast jazz and big band music.
Yeah. So, did you did you go into college?
Yes, I went in my first year as an engineering major.
Oh, right. I read that in your bio. Okay. And but you found what's his name to study with?
Gary Foster.
Gary Foster.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Well,
you
it was that first year. I went into engineering so I wouldn't scare my mother.
that was that was nice
My
of
my
you.
my father had died, and she was a widow, and she was already freaked out about life. And for me to go say, okay, I'm gonna be a musician, mom.
Yes.
So, but it didn't work. I wasn't going to classes, and I was going to band practices. And eventually, I told her, look, I've got to be a music major. So second and third year were music majors. Yeah, and that's when that second year was when my band director brought Gary Foster in to do some clinics with us. And that's how I met him and ended up studying with him.
That must have been good.
Oh, he's amazing, amazing teacher,
Yeah.
amazing player.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard a lot about his teaching. A lot of people just gained so much from him.
Yeah,
Um, so and then you went to Cal State Northridge?
I did
Yep.
just for 1 year.
Uh-huh.
Marching band again. It was a requirement to be in the music program. You had to do marching band.
Wow.
So you're out there in August in Reseda, marching around on a football field.
Oh boy.
I didn't dig that at all. And
Needless.
my roommate was the lead trumpet player. He's a great lead player.
Hmm.
He's from San Clemente, and we both screwed up and overslept on the day that the band was supposed to go to the Coliseum and play at the USC game.
Oh my God. Oh, I bet you got in trouble for that one.
Big trouble. Yeah. And once again, it was just the jazz program was okay, but at that point I was starting to get burned out with studying music,
Yeah.
and I was playing gigs, and I was just thinking, I'm just gonna go out there and be playing and not be in a program.
Yeah. So you started playing around LA? Was that it? And just
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, both sort of half jazz gigs and half pop gigs, club gigs.
Yeah, that was really what was happening
Yeah.
at that time. I mean, we were working all the time and all various stuff and casuals, right?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, okay, Roland, I'm gonna ask him.
Oh.
Zappa,
Okay. You
which
have a
we have a clip of Paul playing a particular thing, so we're gonna watch that. Maybe let's watch that first,
okay.
and then because
This is can I tell you the story leading up to this?
sure,
Uh, so I did a tour with Frank, U.S. and in Europe,
hmm
and when we got to Paris, it was actually one of the few times we had 3 nights somewhere.
yeah,
And Frank, all the time on the road, was coming up with new stuff. So he said, "Hey, let's do a version of Bolero for the Paris concert." So we literally worked this out at a sound check,
oh my God,
and yeah, so that's the story behind why we're doing Bolero. We're
okay,
Yeah.
all right, and here we go. Like he has a cigarette in one hand.
Yeah, he liked to conduct. We even tuned up.
And the opening line is Paul, just so you know.
Don't recognize me. I know. Albert Wing.
Ah,
Bruce Fowler.
yeah. Oh man. Should I stop?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Um,
I love the little mariachi section in there. And the
so
did you catch the My Sharona quote?
I don't know. Well, how
Uh,
does it go?
My Sharona.
I don't know. I don't think I did. But I mean, sometimes I was thinking, oh, marching band actually paid off a little bit because, I mean, when you get out in the world and you play in a section, it actually really does pay off, probably, right?
No, Sorry. I don't see any use for it whatsoever.
Okay. Okay, we got a lot of comments. Oh,
Yeah, we'll get some comments on that, I'm sure, from band directors out there. Yeah.
also, Cecily reminds us that you had a cameo appearance with Fish to Bird. You should add
Yes,
that to your
I did.
CV.
Hmm.
And then let's see. Hello, Joyce. How cool is this, or can I say bitchin'? Sure. And
Hmm.
yeah, Bruce Fowler, amazing, crazy and amazing family.
And that was Walt on trumpet, Walt Fowler.
Oh, it was.
And way
Okay.
over on the other end was Kurt McGettrick on low woodwinds. He played Barry and bass
Oh,
sax and contrabass clarinet and piccolo.
oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Neil Veneard is here. I don't know if you know Neil. He said that was smoking and everybody likes it. Excuse me.
Who doesn't like Ravel? I mean, come on.
And who doesn't like Zappa? I guess there are people, but
There are people, yeah.
um, so yeah, I was noticing the bass line, was it? There was some funky bass line.
Yeah, it was. They were the whole concept was to sort of change the concept each time it went around.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did you play with Zappa?
All totaled, about 2 years, maybe longer. The lead up to the tour was about 6 months, maybe 5 or 6 months. We rehearsed 8 hours a night, 5 nights a week for 5 months straight.
Whoa.
He had a sound stage rented, and
Wow.
we had full sound system and monitors.
So what happens when you do that? I mean, obviously you get tighter and you know the music better. Anything else other than the audio?
Well, once again, watching Frank during this whole process, that it was those months that he enjoyed the best. It was
Oh,
like being in a sandbox
yeah.
with a band that could execute anything that came up in his mind.
Yeah.
And literally every rehearsal we're like, hey, let's try this. And hey, let's, there was not a set thing like we have to learn these tunes.
Yeah.
However, there were close to 100 pieces that he wanted us to have memorized.
Oh.
And the reason for that is
Oh, right. Memorized, right.
memorized, like not have to look at music. And all but for a few of them, we memorized, or I did. I think Walt memorized everything. That guy's a savant. um, but we didn't have opening bands at the shows. We played first half, second half with an intermission, and Frank would pick about 25 tunes, 12 tunes for each one, that were different every night, just whatever he felt like doing.
Yeah.
And we would have a band meeting just to decide because there were all segues too. He never stopped between tunes. So it's like, how are we going to segue from this groove into this groove?
Oh.
Which was pretty much all on Chad, Chad Wackerman, the drummer. But,
Okay. Oh, Chad Wackerman. Okay.
and
Who was the pianist?
pardon me?
Who was the pianist on that tour?
It was Robert Martin.
Okay.
Um,
So
and
did
he
you?
also
So you
sang.
oh yeah, I saw that a little earlier. So did you actually? This sounds terrible, but after you discussed the segues, did you actually all remember that? Because
Chad did.
how. Oh,
Chad, that was
Chad
it.
did?
That was his,
Okay.
and we
Yeah.
were standing up right next to Chad. So boom, no problem. Just follow Chad.
Right. Okay. That makes sense because drummers usually have a better memory than anybody. Yeah.
He was all on top of it. So
Yeah.
amazing drummer. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Wow. So,
There's an interesting story about how I got the gig. You want to?
I'd love to hear it.
So before Frank formed this band, he was working on the Jazz from Hell album,
Yeah.
which was all sequenced using the synclavier with the big giant sampler of the day.
Yeah.
And Frank wanted some Ben Webster subtone tenor saxophone samples.
Oh, okay.
And I had a friend at the time who was Frank's synclavier engineer, and he was in charge of all the sampling in and getting everything right. And he said, I know somebody, it's Paul Carman. So he brought me in, and it's actually an arduous process. You literally have to blow. Ooh, ooh.
Oh,
He gets 4 or 5 of each note. Now we move up chromatically to the next note.
huh.
Ooh.
Wow.
And you go through the whole horn like this.
Huh.
And Frank happened to walk in during the process and started asking me to do funny stuff. not just play notes, but do some funny sounds. And at one point I played a low B flat with harmonics in it, and he just loved that. And Frank has a history he always had to use LA studio musicians to get his stuff played. It was so hard to get played. He had to use LA studio musicians, and he called them yo-cats because they were just stuffed shirts.
Yeah.
They
Right?
as soon as you ask them to do something funny, they start frowning and
Yeah.
oh, fuck. And well, I didn't. I loved it. Avant-garde. That's where I come from. And
Yeah.
so eventually he set up stereo mics in the studio way far at the other end and had me get back up about 40 feet and blow that low B flat with harmonics and run toward the microphones and spin around in front of them.
Wow.
And he called that his Queen Mary sample. and he used it on
I
the
just
record.
have to ask, what did you think about that? Did you have to kind of give up your ego at all?
No, I was totally into it.
Oh, wow.
Totally into it. I just, yeah, let's do this. The other part was the boring part. And
right.
And so he thanked me at the end of all this. I didn't know at the time, but after getting to know him, it's like, okay, this guy's not a yo-cat. He's having fun with the music.
Yeah.
And he told me, if I form a band in the future, I'll give you a call. And I just took that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
And 2 years later, I got a call, and he was forming this band, and he remembered me and brought me in.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. What an interesting thing. I remember Chris Wabich said that he had played with his son, Zappa's son, in the band. Yeah, and they also did like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 3. Did he say weeks or months? A long time of rehearsals every day. And yeah, it was a lot of.
Yeah. So back to your original question, how long? It was like 5 months of rehearsals.
Yeah.
And then about a year on the road.
Yeah.
We did like 5.5 months in the United States, took a short break, and then did about 5 months in Europe. And then we were getting ready to go over to Japan. And that's when Frank got diagnosed with cancer. And it stopped everything.
Oh.
And Frank loved this band. He called it the best band. One of the albums is called The Best Band You've Never Heard in Your Life. So he was having a good time.
That's cool. Yeah. Let's see. I was going to ask you something else about it, but oh yeah, I was just curious. I'm sure I can imagine what it must have felt like in those few years because it was all encompassing, right? That was it. You were in the Frank Zappa band.
That's all I did.
Yeah.
In fact, this all happened 6 months after I got married.
Oh.
I
Oh
had
gosh.
just gotten married, and then 6 months later, I get this Zappa gig, and I'm like, not around very much.
Bye, honey.
Yeah,
It was really fun. I'll be back.
yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
I had a 8-year-old son too,
oh
and so I didn't get. I brought him out on a couple of concert dates and
yeah.
let him stand up there with us and stuff.
That's cool. So, could you say that there were there were kind of things that you learned? That sounds so like vague and little, but would you say that there were really substantial things that you learned during those few years?
Yeah, the biggest one was I didn't want to be a road musician.
Oh,
That's just uh, it's not how I want my life to be in balance. I need much more family, father,
yeah,
home balance. So that was huge. I came back off that tour. I was kind of burned out. Um, I don't know if I officially did this or not. I stopped playing music and went and got trained as a massage therapist
oh,
and ended up doing massage therapy for about a year and a half, 2 years.
oh,
But then the music calling came back, and I said, "No, I got to be playing some music." So,
hmm,
but it was hard being gone that long.
yeah,
And boy, if I'm so glad it was at least with a tour like Zappa's, where it was just amazing every night. Every night was different. We weren't doing the same show.
yeah,
If I had been, with some
yeah,
singer,
yeah. Some show group or something. Yeah,
so yeah, and you're just doing the same
that would be
15
really
songs
slow.
every night. Everything's the same. I would have died.
Yeah, I can imagine. I would have died too.
So even with that, with probably one of the best, most inspiring road gigs you can imagine,
Yeah,
I still said, no, that's not what I want to do.
yeah.
So that's when I started just focusing on making my own albums and doing my own thing around town.
What about from Zappa himself? Did you have any lessons, big lessons,
Hmm.
like watching or experiencing
I,
stuff?
I've never met anybody so driven to do music. Once again, I like map balance in my life, and
Yeah.
he never did drugs,
Ah,
but caffeine and nicotine, like you could not imagine.
yeah.
Like his bodyguard carried an espresso machine around. It, and so I'm sure he slept, 2 to 3 hours a night, and the rest of it was all music.
Again,
And
a lesson of balance.
man,
Oh wow.
but then you get this incredible output. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy, I can't think of somebody who has the output like he does, like 300 albums or something.
Yeah. Did you learn any kind of arranging perspective just but even by experiencing or
It's interesting. He never wrote anything out for us. It was always, let's do this tune, and he had a 5-piece horn section, and then he would play on the guitar. Okay, here's the alto line, and then
wow.
here's the tenor sax line. He would literally play the parts for us off the guitar.
Oh my God.
And at the time, at first I was always scribbling it down.
Yeah, yeah.
And but so that's how he arranged. He literally heard the 5 parts in his head.
Yeah.
So I really never got a chance to look at how the arrangements were.
Yeah, yeah.
They were very dense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But like I say, he enjoyed that first 5 months of rehearsal more than anything. That was that I called it, we were his sandbox. And then once we got on the road, he had to do all the press stuff all the time and all this other crap. And it was more hard work for him.
Yeah, I mean, the luxury of 8 hours a day, five days a week. That's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Yeah,
right. When you've got a band that's going to show up. I mean, we
yeah,
were on retainer. We were being paid for all that, and yeah,
like that.
amazing experience. I
Um, is some of your music that you, because you've been pretty prolific, is some of your music that you've written and played, recorded? Do you think some of it is kind of reminiscent or directly related to some of the Zappa things?
I think it must have come in, and my original compositions have sort of quirky lines,
Yeah, yeah,
and then they're not really tunes,
yeah,
and I'm sure some of that must have gotten in.
yeah,
It, if not just knowing I had the freedom.
yeah, yeah. When you say not really tunes, are you saying they're more lines
Yeah,
than, okay, yeah,
I compose mostly with lines and counterpuntal lines. I don't really start with chord changes very often. I did back in the 90s, but more and more
that's
it
interesting.
became counterpuntal lines.
Is that something that you teach or is taught? I mean, does Joey Sellers teach like that or?
No, Joey's tunes have a little more chordal structure to them.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes when you listen to that band, you'd think, wow, we're playing out, and we're not. We're playing the form, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So um yeah, I don't even know if Joey teaches his compositional style or not. He teaches composition. He's an amazing composer and arranger,
Yeah.
uh, of all styles. And
Yeah. I'm sure I told you this, but before, but so I used to run that club. You didn't play there, right? The Bar Fedora. I think
no,
I
I didn't.
asked you if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
wanted to, but
but I remember you did. Yeah,
yeah. So
great name, by the way.
Bar Fedora. Yeah, I know. So so one night I asked Joey and what's his cohort in crime, the trombone, Ryan.
Oh yeah, Ryan. His father's a trombonist. Dragon,
Ryan Dragon.
Art Dragon's son.
Yeah. So they for those listening, they have this crazy duo. It's from kind of coming from Paul's point of view, all this musical point of view. So
And it's
I
more.
asked,
It's a lot performance art too. That duo.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So I asked them if they wanted to be at Bar Fedora, and Joey was like, "Are you sure you want us there?" And I said, "Yeah, I really want you there." So they came, and there were very few people. I think really because people just didn't even in LA, they just it wasn't on their tongues, their names. But they came and they did like their performance art includes like blowing up balloons and making music with the release of the air. And then
Hmm.
Ryan came out in what is it called? Like a speedo and
Right,
a wrestling mask,
right, and no shirt on.
no shirt.
Yeah.
And I had the funniest thing was I had this couple who he had wanted to introduce this woman, whoever it was, his wife or his girlfriend, to jazz. So, and so right on the beginning, I came over and said, this is very unusual jazz. This is, not your typical jazz. And they said, oh, no, that's okay. We're here. And they even stayed for the second set. They were just so, they were having a great time,
Yeah. Wow, that's funny.
You can imagine that, right? Yeah, Rowan was asking if Zappa was intuitive as opposed to having studied formally.
Um, I'm pretty sure he never studied formally in the case of going to a class
Yeah,
or with a teacher, but I know he studied he studied classical composition by looking at scores.
Okay.
He was into Boulez big time.
Okay.
And so he would study other scores. By the way, I have to say, because I've always thought that a lot of what Zappa did was lost beneath the crazy lyrics.
Yeah.
That the crazy lyrics drew a lot of people to him.
Yeah.
But underneath all of the crazy lyrics was this amazing music going on.
Yeah.
And after he got cancer, he started really focusing just on his writing.
Mm-hmm.
And he made an album called The Yellow Shark, and it was performed by a German ensemble called Ensemble Modern.
Mm.
And boy, did they nail it. He tried, there were previous things he tried to do with the London Symphony and so forth, and they just couldn't groove. They just and but this group, it was like a 30-piece group, I think. I highly suggest that, to really listen to.
Cool.
If you want to just listen to compositionally what's going on in his head with none of the lyrics going on.
Yeah.
I suggest that album.
Fantastic. I'm going to go listen. Let's listen to one of yours again, okay?
Okay.
So do you want to control it or do you want me to?
Did you have one picked out?
Well, I did want to hear some of the
Quartet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the last one on my site here. I just released it, but it was actually recorded in 2014 at Jazz on the Pines. Let's see. So
right here.
Let's see what would be a good one.
And we might just fade out at some point, but
well, let's do the Ornette Coleman tune. See, as you can see, just at the lineup of tunes here, there's Monk,
yeah,
right, and Steve Lacy tune,
yeah, Chris Seimer,
yeah,
throw him out there with Monk and Lacy.
So yeah, do a Mind and Time.
Okay, cool.
Oh, whoa, wait. I have to say this is Quartet +1.
Okay.
Which at one point we added Brad Dutz to the band.
Okay.
And Brad Dutz and Chris Wabich have a thing.
They sure do.
In fact, at one of our gigs, they actually played the same drum set.
Like literally.
They just made it a kind of a bigger semicircle, and they both sat right shoulder to shoulder.
Oh.
And played the same drum set. This particular set, they're playing their own different sets. Okay. All right, go on.
We've talked a lot about Brad Dutz, on here. So here we go. I'm going to start that again.
Okay.
Cool. See, I didn't want to stop anywhere.
Well, that was definitely late night FM radio stuff.
How many recordings do you have?
Well, I've actually been in the process of trying to get everything up there, and I had some live recordings on thumb drives. This was one of them. So that right now that Bandcamp page is the whole kit and caboodle. It's everything I've done, including the CD metronomes.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Oh, I invented a teaching tool. And it's a double CD of a live drummer playing straight ahead jazz at metronome markings from 60 to 400. And each track is 3 minutes long. So it's to practice jazz too. Now, this was back in the day when Band in the Box was pretty much the only automated,
Yeah,
which didn't swing very well.
right.
Yeah, pick one out like around 220 or something.
Okay. Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Is it all, did you say it's all swing?
Yes. Because
Okay.
that I focused on swing because that's the thing that drum machines and automated programs just didn't do very well.
Exactly.
That
By
was
the way,
Kendall
yeah.
K, by the way. So you
Okay. I'm
get to
going to copy and
prac.
paste. I'm going to copy and paste your Bandcamp because there's another Paul Carman on. And,
Yeah, he's a Christian artist
okay. Okay.
with very different music than mine.
Did you play at Sunspace?
No, never did.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was a cool thing Brad had going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
So
how Brad and Chris work together. They just
it's crazy.
uh,
I've seen a few recently. I saw a few. He sent me some uh, clip, YouTube stuff, I guess, of him, those two at Sunspace. Actually, I think while they were tearing down a wall or something. They are so, they are so funny and fun and great.
they tour as a duo, and they do it in conjunction with giving clinics.
Yeah,
But they have a percussion two drummer duo
so
thing.
cool.
Yeah.
I remember when Brad actually studied composing, you know, serious composing with a few different single teachers, and then started using the vibes and uh,
Marimba.
the
Yeah.
marimba. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that period too.
And he's a great composer, man.
Yeah, yeah. He's such an interesting guy.
That's another guy that's 24/7 music. I mean,
Yeah,
is the out if you go to his Bandcamp page, wow, there's
totally. I know.
must be 25
At least.
recordings there.
Yeah, yeah. It seemed like every week he was coming out with something. Yeah, yeah. Really interesting. So, um, so what has been going on during the pandemic for you?
Well, no gigs, obviously.
Yeah,
um, at my school, the first semester that all came crashing down, I had to teach everything Zoom,
yeah,
which was horrible,
yeah.
um, including the fact that we have an international student body. So I had to teach, like my jazz theory class, I had to teach it twice. I had to teach it for Eastern Hemisphere and Western Hemisphere, for
Wow.
all the kids in Uzbekistan and China and Vietnam. And
Wow.
so yeah, and technically a theory class should work fine on Zoom, but I just need to be in the classroom with them. I need to see it in their eyes that they get it.
Yeah.
And you over there, it doesn't look like you quite get it, and they're not raising their hand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that was horrible, but our school really did a great job of, because we're a boarding school, so we're able to bring everybody in and make a bubble, and we don't let them back out. We don't Usually the kids are allowed to go off into the town and do
Yeah,
things, but
yeah,
during that we just created a bubble.
yeah,
But that gave us the opportunity to teach in person again.
yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, we're teaching in person. um as far as gig, one of my main gigs is a trio that I've been doing up here with Marshall Hawkins, and then there's a pianist named Barnaby Finch
Yeah,
who lives up here, who's
yeah,
a really fine pianist.
yeah.
I remember, like, within 3 months, 2 or 3 months, I ended up at a jam session after moving here, and Marshall and Barnaby were both there,
Oh,
along with a bunch of other great people. Don Reed, who now teaches at our school. And so I'm sitting here, blown away at, first of all, like, there's that many good musicians in this little tiny town.
yeah,
But then Marshall and Barnaby are like, oh my God, they play jazz. They are people that I can play everything I know with them. I don't have to hold back and leave some stuff out because they're not up to my level.
Yeah,
and we formed a trio in 2002, and it's been 20 years of
I've
playing
heard it.
together.
I've been in
Yeah,
the audience. Yeah.
it's and we've developed a really great repertoire of very interesting things, and we had our gig was once a week at a local venue, and of course that ended,
Yeah.
and we're going back into business in April
Oh, good.
at Faro. We're going to start playing Tuesday nights again.
Will you be playing outside or inside?
Yes, definitely outside. And this time of year, you never know if it's going to be too cold or not. We have to go week
Yeah.
to week. But once we get
Yeah.
into May, we'll be okay. And then we'll play all summer. And then hopefully next winter, COVID won't be really bad and we won't get a fourth or fifth wave. And we'll
Yeah.
go back and play inside at Faro for the winter.
Yeah. By the way, if you guys listening are ever up in Idylwild and you want to go there, the Pharaoh has great food too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
great food, great jazz. It's really a nice evening.
Ferro.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah, Cecily loved loved those nights too. She said, "Give her regards to them."
Yes, yeah. Yeah, she would come in all the time after teaching and
Yeah.
sit in with us.
Do you have a jazz vocal teacher nowadays?
No, it's gotten I don't understand the vocal program anymore. They're requiring the jazz vocalist to take classical vocal lessons, which I don't disagree with,
Right, I don't either.
but they don't have a real jazz singer teaching.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's actually one of the reasons I left Cal State LA. I was there for about 7 years, and um, there were things I liked, like these joint workshops or where classical and jazz people were together, and the teachers would all see the same things going on, but had different methods of help. Found that fascinating. I thought if I was a student, I would have loved to see that too. But the thing that I didn't like that they got into was they decided that they wanted me to recruit people. However, if you were a student who wanted to study with me, you had to do something like 3 or 4 years classical singing and no jazz. And I just thought,
first, do that first.
yeah. And I just thought, I'm totally into having them learn classical technique
Sure.
and
Yeah.
music, but why not have the jazz too? That kind of harkens back to other teaching jobs I had where the
Yeah.
people who were already in there were
Yeah.
so afraid that the jazz, I don't know what they were afraid of, the jazz would take away from them or steal from them, or I don't know what that was. But that harkened
Yeah.
back to that.
Yeah. So I'm really not quite sure, you know, uh, way back maybe 6, 7 years ago, we used to put jazz singers in my combos,
Yeah, right.
but I would tell the admissions people, okay, but only one each. I'm not going to take two or three singers in a combo.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden they each have to have a tune, and that leaves two tunes for the combo to work on.
right.
I mean, the main focus of that group and so anyway, I would take one each,
Mm-hmm.
and when they weren't singing their tune,
Yeah,
they were instrumentalists. They were scatting and singing horn parts.
yeah,
And that worked out pretty well. But eventually they created a whole jazz program, and they were supposed to have their own rhythm sections that
yeah,
they would work with.
yeah,
And, our school relies on recruiting. And so we never know what we're going to get. And we had a rhythm section, then we didn't. And then the whole thing fell apart. And yeah, I don't know.
I think I was there during that period. It was kind of obscure what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to
Well,
make it work, but
it
yeah.
still is.
The kids were really really cute, and I remember very fondly the showcases, or it's not called showcases, the final, you know
Hmm.
final performance, and yeah, they did really well. I was so impressed with them.
We get good kids there. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
They're it's like any high school. There's the great kids, and then there's the sort of kids that are floating around, and then there's the kids who don't give a shit about anything. And but the percentages are different here.
Yeah.
You have a lot of really great kids. There's still kids in the middle that are kind of floating around,
Mm.
and very few kids you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
you know.
Every now and then when you get a kid who says, "Why do I have to do that?" It's like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right.
I get it now." Um, just a offhand question. Uh, are there are there are there any records that you consider a real must for people to listen to?
Oh, God. You're
Really a
okay.
broad question.
It's pretty broad. Um, so when
Or
you ask that
maybe,
question, it sounds like you're asking for two or three.
yeah, or maybe an artist, or
Uh,
I mean that I think that's even a broader question.
all right, then
Don't you?
all of Miles Davis's output.
There you go.
Okay, just go that from the beginning
Yes.
to the middle to the Herbie and Wayne Quintet, my favorite band, and and on. Okay, yeah, if you just do Miles Davis, you've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Um,
And you
'cause
do have a favorite band there.
yeah, that second quintet was just ridiculous. And because of that, if you listen to Miles, then you're going to get Coltrane, you're going to get Wayne, you're going to get Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones. I mean, you're going to get
Korea, Hancock,
my
yeah.
God, you're going to get everybody.
Yeah.
It's there. So there, I said it. That's it.
Okay, good.
Study the entire output of Miles Davis and throw a Mingus album in there.
Yay, Mingus. Mingus came to Berkeley when I was there. That was one of the most exciting things about Berkeley that I remember. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was so cool. But I think a good part of why I leaned toward jazz was the personalities too. You know, jazz tends to put out this real copacetic personality, right? Just very like chill, kind of personality.
And then you have Mingus. Not chill, no.
I actually,
Or
I
Miles.
have an impression that he was not chill. Was he not chill, Mingus?
Oh, I never thought of him as chill. My God, no, he was very strong-minded and
Oh, yeah.
would get in the arguments and fights.
Oh,
Yeah,
I guess I don't know a lot about him.
yeah.
Yeah, personally, yeah. Do you still
You-
practice, Paul?
Yeah, I do. Um, but I tend to gravitate more toward composition right now. Just the composing process.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and I don't really write from my horn. I write from score. I use finale
Oh,
and I start writing counterpuntal lines that I like, and a lot that the danger in that is I write something that's too hard to play on the saxophone or any instrument. Um, but that's yeah. I haven't been very good during COVID about practicing. I just before that I used gigs to keep me on top of my horn,
Yeah.
and so I'm in the process right now of trying to develop a new mouthpiece to
Oh,
play on. I'm working with this manufacturer. They're called Sios, and they 3D print um,
oh,
mouthpieces.
that whole thing is so interesting. The 3D print. I was watching houses being built from 3D print. Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
Wild.
Well, if you can imagine, you set up all the parameters of a mouthpiece with your 3D printer, and then you print it, and then I play it, and I go, can we just open the chamber slightly and maybe close the tip 2/100ths of an inch? And all they have to do is go back into my original file and change those two parameters and print out another one. So it's a pretty cool process to get to the mouthpiece you want. If you're doing that with a mouthpiece maker,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
that would cost way too much.
Yeah.
And the guy would kick me out. I'm too picky.
The whole mouthpiece subject is really, to me, it's one of the most intricate and fascinating things about playing the horn. I mean, how many conversations have I heard about mouthpieces, let alone the brain
ligature.
fart.
Ligature.
I was going to talk about the
The reed.
bamboo, the reed, let alone the reed. I mean, that in itself is a subject, but um, yeah, the mouthpiece. I know Bob Shepard actually has developed some mouthpieces too over the last few years, and is producing them. But yeah, I'd like to wrap my head around this actually.
Okay.
I mean, is it kind of like as a singer, if you and I are singing, we have very different, uh, not only sounds, that's obvious, but we have different balances happening inside, and we're shaped differently. And so, even if we were to do the exact same actions, it would come out differently. And also, I guess the intention behind it, but
just because of the genetic makeup of your throat and
yeah.
larynx and
So, but I mean, how many different ways can you make a mouthpiece that works? I mean,
well, you just said the most important thing, because okay, first of all, the mouthpiece and the reed are the most important part of the saxophone. The rest of it is a tube that changes pitches.
Okay.
Right? It's a pitch changing thing.
Yeah.
But that whatever comes out of that mouthpiece, that's the most important part. The neck is kind of the second most important part. But also, playing a mouthpiece, the internal acoustics of your mouth come into play as well. And that's why a lot of times, like you give somebody a mouthpiece and they play it, it sounds different and they sound different. And then you come back in 3 weeks and they sound just the same. You figured out how to sound like yourself on that mouthpiece.
Oh, yeah.
So it ends up coming down to, how does the mouthpiece actually work? How does it make the horn respond? Low notes, high notes, altissimo notes. Those things can be the parts of the mouthpiece that are most important. How does it make the whole instrument respond? And of course, it's still putting out a tone, but so many times the internal things that are going on within me really are the most important part of making that tone. That makes sense?
Absolutely. It's fascinating. So, in that case, or as far as you're concerned, the desired action is to allow, let's see, to allow the mouthpiece to have a kind of a personality of its own, and to find your expression through that unique personality for a unique effect.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the things I've been working on with this particular mouthpiece have more to do with how much back pressure I've got, things like that. I love the tones. The tone of it just sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
But the tip opening and the amount of back pressure are kind of the two things we're looking for the perfect settings for right now.
Yeah.
but the thing sounds great. And I know the longer I play it, it'll sound like the auto link I'm replacing the auto link that I played for 10 years.
Yeah. And how do you feel about your, let's just say, ability to do what I was saying, to allow the mouthpiece and to not end up, like you were saying, in another 2 weeks, sound like you're using the auto link?
The auto link sounded great.
But I mean,
Yeah,
because you're changing it though to have a different sound, right?
no, I wasn't trying to
Oh,
change my sound. I was trying to refine. I liked the sound I was getting.
yeah.
So more along the lines of back pressure and think chamber size and so forth.
So making it so this new mouthpiece will make it somehow easier or more pleasant to
Pleasant. It would be the pleasant according to me.
the feeling of your body and
The
the
feeling of how it
yeah.
responds, how much
I
air I
see.
can put through it, so forth.
Okay, so the sound that you don't, it's not that you're changing the sound.
It's some people do, but my whole process with this new mouthpiece thing was, okay, I had this auto link that sounds great.
Yeah.
Can we do some things with the way it responds and the air moves through it that so they made that auto link as their starting point.
Right. I see.
They knew, I just told them I play an auto link slant 8, and they knew what that was, and they put that into their 3D printer. And then we started modifying it. And so anyway,
It's interesting.
and it's, to be honest, I've always been a proponent. I tell my students, you get a good mouth, just stay with it. Don't be one of those people that is always searching for the perfect mouthpiece, slant woman, it's like perfection. And you get a good one, stick with it. And so this is this is the first time I've sort of let myself go into this deep water of getting a perfect mouthpiece. But this manufacturer offered to make me one of their artists, and I said they want to come up with a mouthpiece to put my name on, so here we go, we're going to do it. And I think we're almost there. I got one more slight modification, and then
It's
we'll have
exciting.
it.
How long does the actual manufacturing out of the 3D, you know, uh, um,
I'm assuming 5 minutes. There, the company's in Paris.
yeah.
Um, so I just tell them, okay, let's try this, and I assume they just put those parameters into the 3D printer, and I'm sure it doesn't take more than 5 minutes to print one of these things.
The process
Yeah.
still blows my mind. I was watching this house being built and I was like, it took me a minute to really like, understand what the heck was going on. I didn't really get it. But so well, I don't really know how mouthpieces are created anyway. It must be metal is poured into something, right?
Right, but there's a lot of work that a person has to do on it at the final end of it.
Okay.
Putting it in the mold and all of that gets it close, and then
Yeah.
this person has to finish it off
Right. So the
with
mold is actually what's changing in the 3D program.
uh it's not even a mold. It's, I mean, a 3D printer can print things like car manifolds,
Yeah, don't they
which
have to
which
go
has
somewhere though?
they
They can't just like get created in air, right?
it's on a platform.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then it
that
just gets built up from there.
yeah, built up is the right word. They everything's built up.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty mind blowing.
we'll see. I'll probably end up in using my old mouthpiece in the end.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be some European tours for you after it comes out with your name on it, you know?
Oh yeah, well they're getting a lot of artists, so it's it's not a big deal. And that, ooh, I'll shut up. Maybe I
Well,
should.
you
Yeah, yeah.
never know, Paul Carman.
It's yeah.
Roland says, so be glad for the quirks in the mouthpiece as well as in the perfect woman.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that did not go unnoticed. That was good.
Yes.
Um, let's see. And back pressure means how hard you're blowing air into the mouthpiece, right?
No. At some point, a mouthpiece reaches the point where you can't get more air into it, or it's fighting you. The internal
The resistance.
the internal way the airflow moves through it creates a resistance back,
Right.
and then I call it hitting a wall. And you
Right.
don't want to play against that wall. If you blow any harder, the instrument will go flat,
Right.
and things like that. So I tend to like mouthpieces that are very free.
This
And
is so
that,
much like singing, you know. I mean, I'm
yeah.
just listening to you thinking about the singing. And yeah, we talk about resistance as well. And yeah, if I blow too hard, then I'm gonna sound like I'm pushing and go flat and have
Yes.
a bad sound. And if I can, the freer I can get, and that's the crucial part, you know, as a singer, like really understanding and feeling and learning that point right there, which generally happens at the top of the lower register, right? And you know, just as you're about to hopefully not, but flip into the
Yes.
falsetto, right? And
Gracefully move into the falsetto.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the point where you have to let go and trust and keep sending the air. You know, it's just it's really the same thing, and it's kind of fascinating, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cecily wants to know if you've been in touch with Mark Beebe. Beebe.
Yeah. In fact, we're due to have a phone call in the next couple of days. He's a very fine alto student of mine who ended up going to a place called the Conservatory of Amsterdam,
Mm.
which is a school I found out about maybe 4 years ago. An amazing music school with an amazing jazz program,
Wow.
and it's just a conservatory. And the thing about it, one of the things about it, but okay, so college costs here are crazy right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
my students are starting to get their college acceptances back. I just got one who got into USC, but has no idea how he's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the Conservatory of Amsterdam, I think right now for European Union members is right around 3,000 euros a year, which is about $4,500.
Wow.
And for non-European members, it's only 1,000 or
Huh.
2,000 euros more.
Wow.
I mean, it's ridiculously less expensive. And all you have to get off campus housing, and they have several of those around. So you add up the tuition and the housing and food, and Mark rides a bike to school every day, and I think he's sitting at right around $9,000 a year, and getting a top shelf education. So he's there. This is his third year there.
Incredible.
Third year there, and
Oh, wow. Wow.
well, one of my other students this year is considering going there. So the guy who got into USC. So
Yeah, man. Wow. That's that's pretty cool to know about. Do they have vocalists there as well?
yes, in fact, that's how I found out about it,
Oh,
because one of our jazz vocalists,
yeah.
she was from Azerbaijan.
Uh-huh.
She ended up going there. So I was staying in touch with her, and she would tell me about the program. And I thought, wow, man, this is like for vocalists. Well, they have extensive ear training program, super intense. Like the first 3 years, you have ear training every day. They also, even though they're a very modern school,
Yeah.
even avant garde, to say, but they make you learn the basics, the bebop, the mainstream stuff first. They will not let you be in one of the more modern ensembles or anything until you get that down.
I love that.
I do too. And so anyway, that's where Mark Beebe is going to school now. And
Cool.
I think the singer is maybe staying for her master's. I can't remember. I got to get in touch with her. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just on Monday. I was on here with Jim Fox, who's a straight ahead guitarist, and it was great. We were listening to him and Jimmy Bruno and John Pisano play together. They were just, it was so tasty and swinging, and it was just a standard that they, were taken apart. And yeah, it just struck me that, that having that basis in there in your inside of you is just so crucial. It's great.
Anybody playing free music, the ones that I like the best, I can tell that they have that background,
Oh,
that you're able to reference it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, in fact, there was something I wanted to play for you. This was with Tree Orbits with Chris Seimer and Kendall Kay, and we were in the studio and we were going to do a version of A Train. Well, we did, but this crazy introduction popped out.
Oh,
Um,
do you want me to go to it, or do you?
since your audio is working okay on your end, it's the album.
I'm getting
Tree Orbits. What are they doing in there? Oh, but no, even Picasso couldn't find her. There we go.
right here.
No. What are they doing in there? The one right in the middle.
Oh yeah, that's the one that I picked. Okay, I got it. Okay,
And then just play Cable Car Chaos.
okay. Here we go.
Take the intro deal.
That's good.
Okay. But it sounds great. Okay. Oh, I gotta buy that one. That's
So that
that's
and
great.
that was
Okay.
not that whole thing was not planned. Like
Oh, right. I was just gonna talk about that. No,
and
you guys are so obviously on the same wavelength.
and but I guess the point is too, once it gets into the tune, that band swings.
Yeah.
And that's what we were just talking about. It's like being able to, Kendall and Chris and I play mainstream really, really well.
Yeah.
And so that tends to come out to me into a higher level of playing free.
Yeah. And then the unexpected, like, I think I've told you about the moment. I have this band with Dutes, Gary Fukushima, Chuck Manning, and Jeff Richmond,
Okay.
right? And whenever, which by the way, we didn't have Jeff Richmond on our first gig, but he stopped by and he asked if he could sit in, and that's how same as
Wow.
your band. But yeah, anytime we got together over the years, it was always the same sound, the same personality of the band, and we did stuff like that. And you know, over the years, the more we played, yeah, it's just like you trust each other, and you trust each other, and you kind of expect what is going to be coming, right?
Trust is the word. Trust is the word. To be, well, it's almost like a rule. It's an unwritten rule. We
Yeah.
just do it. But the rule is, don't think about whether what you're wanting to play is going to work or feels right or is the right thing to do.
Right.
Allow any impulse to emerge.
That's a big challenge.
And when everybody in the band is doing that,
Yeah.
and at the same time listening, that's how an introduction like that can happen,
Yeah.
right? And that, in all the bands I've ever played in, that for me is what tells me whether I'm playing with the right group of people or not, is that we're all operating from that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joey and I, my God, I mean, it's just like we can do anything we want, and it's like billiard balls. All of a sudden, I'm hitting him off course into some other place, and then he hits me, and it all works beautifully. So
It's so much fun. I don't see how people don't desire to go into that style of music, or sit around. Actually, I remember talking to Roland about this, because we used to go over to the Sunland space, Brad's, and the bands were outrageously good, because Brad had great taste, and people were willing to come out and play. And we would sit around going, why, how come more people aren't here? I mean, not that, well, I mean, it was a small place anyway, but just why aren't a lot of people here, like, listening to this and craving it, and to experience this? Because it's really a great experience to be in the audience listening to it,
well, that that kind of music has a harsh texture.
Uh-huh.
And generally, if someone sits down and really listens, they love it.
Yeah.
But if you want to be in a club and be able to talk a little bit or whatever, it's gonna, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It needs critical listening.
Yeah.
And generally, anytime that someone sits down and really listens to it, they fall in love with it.
Yeah.
If it's good, if it's a good version.
Yeah.
But playing that kind of music limits one's opportunities
Yeah.
to play
Yeah.
because of that.
Do you feel like there's more of it right now? I feel like there's more.
Yes.
Of it.
Well, it's definitely the way that jazz is moving, I think.
Yeah.
When you listen to what's going on in New York, the cutting edge, and in LA, the cutting edge of things tends to be a blend of inside outside. There are people who've really studied inside mainstream, but there's a big freedom there.
Yeah.
And I'm loving that.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that almost all young, when I say young, under 30,
Yeah.
jazz musicians seem to have that mentality now.
Yeah. You ought to actually get a gig at the Leroy Ball's Leroy Downs jazz series at Mr. Music Head. He'd love your stuff. He's got very particular taste. But anyway, I saw Dana Stevens' group there a few months ago. I really enjoyed that. He's a really good player. Kind of reminds me of Coltrane in a way, and very committed. You can hear the commitment, and the players were all great.
Hmm.
It was really good music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not. Yeah.
Dana, Dayna, and Stevens with PH in it. I think you'd like his playing a lot. He's just so committed and
I have heard the name now that
graceful.
I'm writing it down. I
Yeah,
see it's something I've seen.
yeah.
Is a LA person?
No, he lives in New
Oh,
York,
okay.
and but he's been to LA a number of times. Played with the Blue Whale, and um, as you have. Um,
Yeah, you were there.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Blue Whale. We wish it was still here.
Oh my God, it hurts so much.
I know. That was just such a great room.
That was the place to go play music that was on that edge.
Yeah. Did you
And
ever play at Rocco's before that?
yeah, mhm,
Yeah. Yeah. And that a long time ago was the only place that was having new music there. That
right.
was it, right?
Hmm.
It was great.
Occasional
Uh,
bookstore or library somewhere. But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a bookstore in Pasadena. Can't remember the name of it, but they had very unusual people there. It was a while back. Um, yeah. We will survive.
Hmm.
Um, I know what you like in a player. Is there is
Oh no.
there
Okay,
is
go
there
ahead.
something like if it was me, I would say I hate when a piano player uh, I'm singing something out and they are trying to adjust and make my notes sound in the key. And it's like, don't do that. I am singing what I want to sing. And sorry that you think it's wrong, but I like it. That's just one thing. I was just curious if you had a pet peeve about.
I don't when things like that happen, I guess I do have pet peeves, but in general, it's like, okay, that's not the right person to work with. In other
Yeah,
words, instead of me trying to tell them, no, don't do
yeah,
that, do this, it's
yeah.
it's
That
back to
was
that thing.
yeah,
It obviously that person's initial impulse was to go do that thing that you didn't like
yeah,
underneath you. And so I always prefer just to find the player that I don't have to say anything to.
yeah,
So I'll leave it at that.
yeah. I've
I mean,
heard I've heard some talk
drummers that don't swing, okay.
drummers. I was just going to say,
That
like, didn't Miles say, or somebody said, if you have to tell a drummer what to do, it's the wrong drummer.
yeah, and I say that's true for any instrument.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, Paul Carman, really want to thank you for coming on. It's been really fun.
it's been
I
awesome,
enjoyed it a
Cathy.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope our paths cross more. And yeah,
Well, as things are opening up, I can see myself driving off the hill more. And we usually once again, uh, Chris Seimer lives in Seattle, and he's my favorite bass player. you know And
And he doesn't
so
really come down here.
uh, generally what happens is, back when Jazz in the Pines was happening, I'd get a Jazz in the Pines gig. That would be our anchor gig.
Right.
And we'd build some gigs around it. And he would also go play with his old, some of his other old buddies in LA. And,
Yeah.
And my second favorite bass player is Joel Hamilton, who is living in the Bay Area, driving a truck.
Joel Hamilton?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is he still driving? I thought he stopped for a while.
He's local now. He's not doing long haul driving.
Oh, I
So
see.
but he is still driving a truck up there.
He was always that bass player who was into, really good music, modern music,
Yeah.
played really beautiful.
Can play
choice.
orchestral too. He played in some of
Yeah,
the local symphonies
yeah.
and I think he right now he's teaching himself to play tuba.
Oh,
Yeah. So anyway, my two favorite bass players don't live in LA. So
we're gonna have to find you some
there's
other
some good
players.
Kevin Axt comes to mind.
Kevin Axt, yeah.
Kevin.
There's a really nice young player that we heard at Sam First, Joshua Crum.
Hmm.
And he played with the drummer. Well, he played with, was it Anthony Wilson, Dan? Let's see. Yeah, Anthony and you guys tell me the drummer's name again. It's Jay Bellarose. Do you know his playing?
Mm-mm.
Such a unique drummer. It's like he's playing colors instead of drums, and I thought of him as minimalist, but a drummer was sitting next to me and he said he's not minimalist. I'm like, well, to me it sounds like he's doing bang, dun, like leaving lots of space, and everything he does is like the perfect thing in the music.
Brings Billy Mintz to mind when
Oh
you
yeah,
say that. Yeah.
yeah, Billy Mintz.
Yeah.
I just sent him an email asking him to be on this show.
Oh, cool.
He's great. He's a great person, yeah, and great musician. And Dan says Ben Williams is a great bass player. He is. He is a very strong, very nice.
Oh, and I should mention Rob Thorson too in San Diego.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Once again, he's a
sounded great.
fair ways away, but
Yeah,
I
he
usually
sounded
can
really
get.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a little closer than San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Paul Carman.
Thank you.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Thursday through Sunday this week will be all archives. I have a new archive link so you can follow it and always check out. There's a list of who and what date I interviewed people. Paul, your number, just so you know, 430.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
400 of these you've done?
Yep. It's pretty good,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And then also, if you're in LA, Saturday, I'll be performing a set and then having a jam session in Playa Vista at the conference room, and you can find the information on my website. You know who's in town? Bob Bowman.
Oh,
And he's going to be
nice.
at Sam First on Friday and Saturday. It's a CD release party.
Oh, I had Target's Josh Nelson's
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was considering going down there on Saturday.
yeah.
I took a trip. My son and I went to Staples Center last night to see the
Oh,
Clippers play.
oh, cool.
We're Laker fans and we're really bummed about being Laker fans this year.
Oh,
And so we decided to go to see the Clippers, which costs like 30%, no, 70% less. So we got these
wow.
great seats. And anyway, I'm just talking about the drive though. It's
Yeah,
it's always a big drive, 2 hours, 15 minutes without traffic. And
yeah, yeah,
so I'm looking at that gig on Saturday and
yeah.
going, okay, I'm gonna make the drive.
I was at their gig in, I guess it was December, maybe. I don't know. That band, they played in somebody's yard in La Cañada, and it was great. God, and Clay Jenkins, another
Oh,
guy, there was a tune of Larry's that's really cool tune. I forget the name of it, but you may have heard it, Larry Kuntz's. And what Clay played on it was,
Clay is marvelous.
he's got the
Yeah.
most interesting point of view, man. And he's so
Yeah, like
solid
none
with
other
it. Yeah,
improviser that I can think of. I
yeah,
can't think he doesn't sound like this.
yeah,
He
yeah,
sounds like Clay. Yeah.
yeah. Really cool.
And then can sit there and play lead trumpet in a big band.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. He's really a good musician. Well, thanks, Paul.
Okay, Kathy. I will. I'll get into town more often to see you and others.
Just
And
keep in touch. Tell me anything that's cool that's happening, and yeah.
sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
If Cecily's still there, say bye for me.
She is.
All right.
Bye.